Well, hello, internet friends near and far. Welcome to another episode of Parks and Conversation. And this is a podcast. The end. This is a podcast where we talk about. I thought maybe it would be like a big celebration of podcastery, but it is not. But we're going to talk about parks and recreation, and we're looking at season 5, episode 12 today. And so, if you have not watched that episode yet, then I would encourage you to put this on pause and then go ahead and watch the episode and come back. And we'll be here for you.
Or counter, listen to this first and see how well we do when you watch it and go, oh, the show is way funnier than those guys.
I think,
I don't know.
I think that is a good, it could be like a primer or a primer. I don't know how to pronounce it I know how to talk about it when it's about paint. I don't know how to talk about it when it's about books. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Like they used them on Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. Did they say primer or primer on Little House?
I don't remember. I usually fell asleep. I don't remember. Even as a kid, it was like, why are we watching this? We have electricity now.
You know why? It's because our moms were really into Michael Landon. That's why.
Right.
He was a dreamboat, and that's why we watched that show.
Yeah. They're like, oh, angels.
Paul was not an angel in that show. He was an angel on Highway to Heaven.
But he was dreamy.
Totally dreamy.
Okay, this is getting weird.
Anyway, my name is Jason, and the guy who you also heard, his name is Jeremy.
That's me.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about this episode. This is a fun episode. But before we get into this, Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm well. I'm well, Jason. How are you?
I'm also quite well.
I'm glad we're well.
I cleaned up my desk earlier this week, so I have less clutter on it. Not no clutter, but less clutter. So I probably won't be reaching to play with things as I'm talking as much.
Did you find anything cool?
No, but I did have a coaster, and I still have the coaster, but it was full of Legos. So I was like, that's doing its job.
You're just over there building Legos while we're doing a podcast?
Oh, man, that's not a bad way to spend the time.
We should do a Lego podcast where we just sit and build things.
Did you hear?
And talk about it. Will you pass me the 2x4 plate? It's the maroon one.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was talking to somebody. He's like 90 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome man. And he's doing puzzles and stuff, keeping his mind sharp. And his lady friend bought him a Lego of the Volkswagen bus.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Which I also have. And I've put together. And it took me a long time. And he's like, I can only work on it for like 10 minutes at a time. Because I just get really frustrated looking for things. Like, yeah, and it's all the same color inside. It's like, he's like, yeah, it's annoying, right? It's like, absolutely, I get it, man. So
I'm telling you, the pre-sort, that's where it's at. You just gotta take the time to sort the pieces. It's just, I know it's a pain, but it makes the builds go a lot smoother.
Yeah, and if you do that and you go bag by bag, don't open all the bags at one time.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah,
huge mistake.
But just focus on single bags as you go.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the whole thing easier. And it's a lot of how I approach our podcast. I look at each plot line as a bag of Legos.
Perfect.
And so we're going to transition into talking about the podcast now. So this is a great episode where we have 3 plot lines. We got Ben looking for the catering for their wedding. We have April leading town forums and trying to channel the spirit of Leslie Knope. And we have Leslie and Anne talking about major decisions in Anne's life and Leslie trying to control them all. So we're going to kind of break these down one by one. We're going to start with Ron and the gang, or Ben and the gang. Then we're going to look at April, and then we're going to take a little break, and we're going to talk about some emails from some listeners. And then we're going to finish out with Leslie and Anne's storyline. Sound good? So how's that plan hit you?
Yeah, that works. Let's do it.
All right, good. Listener, we had a catastrophic internet failure, so we are going to splice some things together. So I hope that transition was smooth as butter. But you know what butter goes on? Breakfast toast. So let's talk about this opening credit scene, because we get to learn a little bit about all the characters here for a moment, and then they're going to split off into different directions. So
what's the difference between like toast and breakfast toast? Just the time of day you eat it?
Time of day.
Okay.
Unless you're having breakfast for dinner, and then it's breakfast for dinner toast.
Gotcha. Okay. Just
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like you had to like put eggs or on it or like syrup. I didn't know.
Yeah. This is a great, great question because sometimes my family, we want garlic bread
Hmm.
and we don't have any like loaves of garlic bread, that you get in the tinfoil and throw in the oven.
Right. The crazy garlic bread
Oh man, it's so good.
because the tinfoil, it's
Yeah. Oh,
conspiracy bread.
so good. Um, but what my wife will do she will just make toast with butter on it and put garlic salt on it.
That works.
That's so good. My wife, my wife is a genius. She is one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Toasted bread genius.
Yeah, and she doesn't even listen to this podcast, so I'm not like kissing up. I just like she's awesome. So
there you
go. Anyway, if you know my wife, let her know. Happy Mother's Day. I didn't get you anything, but I talked about you on a podcast. It starts off with a credit scene where they're at JJ's and they're meeting for something. We don't really know why they're all together. But they're having breakfast, and I love Ron's introduction. I'm going to get 12 eggs and part of a dead animal, dealer's choice.
He doesn't care. It's just meat.
Yeah, he just wants all that. And gets oatmeal and berries, and also catfish and grits with pumpernickel toast, which all sounds gross. And so Ron's like, why are you doing that? And so she explains that she tends to pick up her boyfriend's personality. So she's trying, when she goes out, to order something that she likes and order something that she doesn't usually get, to have a new experience. And Leslie is proud of her for trying new things. And then she talks about writing all this stuff on her blog, which no one's going to read. And then she shares a video of her going skydiving, screaming like crazy. And Ben asks, "Is that oatmeal Ann or catfish Ann?" And Ann's response is, "Not sure. I blacked out." So,
would you ever go skydiving?
I think about it sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But it's an awfully expensive route to get back to where I started.
Yeah, I guess that's a great way to look at it.
So, like, I was on the ground and I'm just coming back to the ground. It's the same reason why I don't do like powerlifting. The weights are already on the ground. I'm just putting them back.
Maybe they want to be there.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt weights. Tom weights, exercise weights, any of the weights. So, yeah. So would you ever go skydiving?
I don't know. I've thought about it too. And it's kind of like, I don't know. It just seems like we're not really built for that. So, I mean, we have to put something on ourselves to not die. It just seems like, I don't know, not the best idea, but people love it.
Yeah, we are not built for that. Jerry Seinfeld has a great bit about jumping out of airplanes. Like, why do they wear the helmet? If that chute doesn't open, that helmet's now wearing you for protection.
Oh, you should do stand up. That's funny.
He should. Yeah. So, so Anne is trying new things, and so that's going to be part of her story. But before we get into the Anne storyline, let's talk about the Ben plotline, which is all about finding the caterer for their wedding. And so it starts out with Chris, Ron, Ben, and Tom at Ben's place, trying to figure out the catering. And Ben brought these three together because they're also different. Because Chris loves vegetables, Ron loves meat, and Tom considers himself a foodie, which is just taking pictures of food instead of eating it. So when they bring out the first course, they start with the salad, and Ron's response is, "You've accidentally given me the food my food eats." So this is going to be great. And I love that the server is like, well, salad is traditionally the first course at a wedding. And Ron's question is a gerbil marrying a rabbit? So it's going to go great. And then they go through the whole thing, and Ben asks for some responses, and Tom's responses are nonsense. He says, caterer number one's presentation was simple, yet exhausting. Number two was subtle and provocative, like a coy Dutch woman guarding a dark secret.
That's nothing.
And then the third one is told a story from a book I wouldn't read. but I would watch the movie of.
Sounds delicious.
Exactly. And as I was writing my thoughts on this scene, I was like, Tom's review is like a smart purred happily. It's just like nonsense words, but a little more than than what Purd offers in his regular discourse. And Ben really loved the appetizer. And Chris is like, "Oh, the mini calzone." And Ben's response is, "No, it's more like a savory pastry, delicate little dough pocket filled with tomato sauce, cheese, and seasoned meat. Just a stunning culinary innovation." And Ron gets to a talking head of Ron and Chris holding up the thing Ben's talking about, and it is just a small calzone. And so, yeah,
It sounded like he was describing a hot pocket.
Well, that's what a calzone is, just a different shape.
It's a burrito calzone. Man,
I should not talk about this stuff this early in the day because
you want hot pockets now.
Yeah, kind of, but I don't have any here. So I got to go on a hot pocket run like I'm a 19-year-old stoner, and I can't do that this early in the day, and it's the only thing I buy.
Mom, people do we have any Tostino pizza bites?
People are just going to judge me at QFC. Like, what are you doing, man? It's my day off.
That's why you gotta.
What are you doing?
So you gotta buy something else that goes with it.
Yeah, just a bag of Doritos.
like toilet paper or something. I don't
know. Oh goodness gracious! Now I gotta just focus. Oh no! All right. Those are I love Hot Pockets. But of course Ben would go with the calzone because he's all about that calzone business. So yeah, because he was going to open his own restaurant. If listener, remember back to the low-cal calzone zone. So, I mean, this is Ben's life. But cut to the next day, we see Ben coming into Chris's office, and he looks like death. And he just says, "I'm dying." And Chris is laying on the floor saying, "I was dying earlier today, and then I died, and now I'm dead." And he had to cancel a date with Shauna. And he says, "Do you think she'll like me now that I'm dead?" And then Ron comes in, and it's like, "This is food poisoning. I have it too." And this is one of my favorite descriptions in all of this show. When Ron is talking about the effects of this food poisoning on his body, when he says, "I cracked the bottom of the toilet bowl." I love that so much. And I love the way he said it as well. It didn't say toilet bowl. He said toilet bowl. And I don't know why the emphasis there on the syllable makes a difference, but I laugh so hard every time. I cracked the bottom of the toilet bowl. Like he's angry at it. So
it failed him.
I mean, you
had one job.
Yeah, don't break. There's an expression, crap rolls downhill, right? And when I was doing open mics, my joke was, how much force are you generating to create enough momentum to run downhill? And now we know. Like, Ron can speak to that. But then Chris is like, "Has anybody talked to Tom? Imagine what that tiny little man must be feeling." And then Ron says again, "I voided more than Tom's body weight in the last 12 hours alone. He might have just disappeared off the earth." Oh, man. So they try to call him, and they can barely move. And there's a series of like knocking the phone on the ground and Ben dialing with his nose.
Yes.
It is one of the best scenes.
Yeah, this is by far one of my most favorite scenes, and it just gets more and more ridiculous to the point where like Chris can't get the phone. Ron's finally like, just summoning all of his strength to knock it off the table, and Ben just does a barrel roll into the phone to smash it with his nose. Hopefully they got somebody, we don't know, but that is just genius scene.
And the way that Ron moves across the room to the phone, it looks like he's having an incident in the moment.
Exactly. He's doing everything he can to get there without
It is so great. And I took drama classes in high school and college, and there's a lot of, and I'm not like a dramatist, a drama urge or
It's
whatever, an actor.
dramatist. Yeah.
But there's a lot of like body work that you do in these classes where you're just like, you need to know your body is your instrument, right? And so you need to know how to move it in a way that is, you can communicate different things. And I don't know why Nick Offerman did not get an Emmy for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series for this scene alone. When you see, like, oh, his pants are filling right now. Like, that is what's being communicated as he shuffles across the room. It's like, oh man, that's a master class in losing your load. So anyway,
gotta keep those grumpies contained.
Listener, if you're unfamiliar with what Jeremy is talking about with calling this a grumpy, just do yourself a real quick search, like a side project here. Just Google Johnny Depp grumpy and see what comes up. Because there's some things that have been revealed in his recent court exploits about things he calls things. So, yeah, pretty amazing. So they get a hold of Tom. Somehow Tom comes up to Chris's office and his first reaction is, it smells like some vomit took a dump in here. Oh, and they explain like, hey, we got food poisoning, and how do you not have food poisoning? And and Ben is like, well, he didn't eat anything, he just took pictures about it. I talked about the wow factor. And Tom says, no, I ate everything except for the stupid mini calzones. And his reason is food rule number 6: never eat anything with the sauce I have to dip myself. Drizzle it for me. I'm not your maid.
It's a maid.
So, so he's like spry, energetic, total contrast between everybody. And Ben is laying on the ground, and he's like, comes to a moment of deep pain as he realizes the calzones betrayed me. Never again, guys. As God is my witness, they're dead to me. And Tom's like, well, Tom feels great. I'm going to go eat some lasagna. And it cuts to Ron and Chris trying to not throw up as he's talking about eating some lasagna. So
I love how as he leaves, he like jumps up and slaps the top of the door frame.
Yeah. He's like, peace. He's like, totally good. So then cut to next day, I'm assuming. And they're all feeling much better. And and Chris notes this. He says, almost no weird stuff snuck out of my body last night. That almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Almost no weird stuff. I want to know what did, and we've already seen Chris very sick when he got the flu, and was going to die. But yeah, that almost no weird stuff snuck out. And Ron is so well recovered. He's just like, this is going to be an epic breakfast. And Ben is like,
back up.
Yeah, like load him up with things that I trust. And Ben is like, what am I going to do? My choice has almost killed us. We've got to do something else. And so Chris is saying there's a place over in Snurling. And Ben is like, no, Leslie is going to want us to do something from Pawnee. And then Tom has a suggestion about John Ralphio he's starting a company, but he's on trial for counterfeiting euros. So John Ralphio's good. And Tom even says he's definitely guilty. But then JJ comes and he brings over dry toast and grapefruit for Chris, egg whites for Ben, egg whites for Tom, and then pretty much everything we make for Ron. And then he's going to send home some waffles for Leslie. And this is when Ben has the moment, a realization, like, this is who he needs to hire for the caterer.
Right.
And so it's going to be a good solution there.
That'd be an amazing wedding. Like, it's not that crazy of an idea. Like, breakfast for dinner is awesome. We've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
To go to a wedding that isn't like pick your meat or fish. And like, I get it. Weddings are hard enough to plan, and it's awesome that people out there, give people free food. But sometimes just fun things are really fun. Like if you had a waffle bar and like sausage and bacon, I'd talk about that wedding for several days.
Yeah, me too. And also, wedding people. I know you want to look beautiful. I know you want to like dress up and stuff. We don't care. Do this as early as you can. Make it make it a brunch. Do the wedding ceremony, have a brunch, and then people are gonna party and be done around like 1 o'clock. And then they'll have the rest of their Saturday. And you will be doing everybody a favor, and everybody will leave there happy. Follow me for more wedding advice. So now that Ben has a plan for the catering for the wedding, let's look at April, who is covering for Leslie to run some of these town forum meetings while Leslie is busy. And so this is for the Pawnee Commons Park project. And so as it's starting out, April is trying on some Leslie Knope outfits because she wants to look and feel like Leslie. And we read that she's tried 8 outfits, and Andy has said she looks hot in all of them. And Andy's like, absolutely, because she is super hot. And he's like, honestly, you'd look hot naked. So, like, good for him. And April is not enjoying all these clothes. And she says, I don't know who Ann Taylor is. I hate her and I want to kill her. And so, yeah, so she is trying to figure out what to do. She points out that Leslie has a suit, a blazer that has a Team Aniston patch sewn onto it. And I, as I was writing, I was like, oh, I wonder what the timeline was, because Jennifer Aniston was dating Justin Theroux at some point. I don't know if they still are. I don't know what's going on. And I'd wonder if this was in response to her relationship with Justin Theroux or something else.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no way to know. But then she also looks in the pockets and finds a Fleetwood Mac concert from 1990 ticket from 1995. And so she's gonna plan on wearing this public forum in Leslie's Fleetwood Mac sex pants, and
Dibs on band name.
And that's what Andy does. And so he calls that for a band name, but then he's like, hey, what about just Fleetwood Mac?
That's a good go with it.
Yeah, you got this, Andy.
That is good.
I've only recently started to enjoy the music of Fleetwood Mac. I mean, I'd hear it and be like, that's good. But then I decided, after that dude on the longboard drinking ocean spray.
Yeah.
Like that guy kicked off TikTok in a way where it's like, oh, normal people can do this. Yeah, I was like, man, that is a good song. So I've been enjoying Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, Rumors is an amazing album.
Yeah, and there's a scene in Fly of the Conchords where they're talking about bands fighting, and and Murray's talking about you don't want to go through what Fleetwood Mac went through, and I think Brett goes rumors, and Murray's just like, no, it's all true. So at the meeting, April is starting off, and she says, welcome to the public forum. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said to Betty Ford, Hillary Clinton is great. So she's really trying to be Leslie Knope, and she also hid under everybody's chairs a surprise flyer with details about the project and a friendship band. So now we're park pals, and Andy's looking under his chair, and he's like, comes back up, like, you should see the booger under this chair.
Andy.
Yeah. And so as they are going through the meeting, a person asks, I'm afraid what this will do with my taxes. And April says, between normal parks budget and our corporate partners, it'll all be funded. And then another person's like, also afraid that it'll be noisy and full of spiders and dark at nighttime. I'm scared of a lot of stuff. Everything's fine. I'm fine. I'm Walter, and I'm fine. And then Harris, who wrote this episode, Harris Whittles, is like, is this going to be a topless park? And April's like, I don't think there are topless parks. And he's like, well, let's be the first one and be heroes. And Gretel, who ate the sandwich and got sick at the park, or also made sun tea out of the water that said she shouldn't drink it. Gretel stands up, is like, if it's a topless park, I won't sign your petition. And Harris looks over like, if she's going to the topless park, I'm not signing the topless park petition. And then he looks like, you know what? I take that back. I'm still in.
Harris.
And then Chance, who is the chanter, gets up and is like, yeah, forget whatever Pawnee Commons is. I'm with the pervert. Topless park. Topless park. So this is going great. And so they come back to the office and Don's like, how was it? And April's like, it was crappy. We only got 4 signatures. 2 of them were me and Andy, and one of them said farts McCool. which
is probably also Andy.
Yeah. And so she's like, I can't be Leslie all the time. And I was only her for 2 hours and I want to die. And so Andy's like, well, you got another chance tomorrow. Let's get back onto that. And she's like, should I wear a blonde wig? And Andy's like, yes, that'd be so hot. If it would help, if sure, it helps you.
Yeah.
So, so they got another forum coming and they get ready, and April and Andy are at it's at a church basement. And so, she gets the bag and she looks in it, and because she's going to change, and it's the wrong bag. All that's in there are fruit roll-ups and baseball cards. Because Andy, that's his go bag.
Yeah.
Whatever emergency I'm in, I need fruit roll-ups and baseball cards.
Baseball cards could be the currency of the future.
Yeah. Oh, well, man, that's my hope from being a child of the 80s. And so,
how much water can I get for this Don Mattingly?
Exactly. How much land can I get from this Don Mattingly? Because we're going to live in a water world situation where I'm going to need Kevin Costner to pee and a thing to filter the water. But the good news is, plus side, we all get jet skis. So
finally.
Yeah. So April's like, I can't do this without my Leslie stuff. And Andy's like, you got this. You'll be great. Just go out there and be yourself. And then she's like, fine, whatever. And she leaves, and Andy looks to the camera and like points to his brain because he's smart. And so
he set her up.
Yeah. He did this on purpose.
He took away Dumbo's feather.
Exactly right.
You didn't wake up thinking you'd hear a Dumbo quote, did you?
Not usually on Fridays.
Reference.
So.
Oh, Friday's not your Dumbo day?
No.
Okay.
That's usually a Tuesday day.
Continue.
I've seen everything, but I've never seen an elephant fly. So in the forum, first person asks, what's this project going to cost me? April gives some math. And the guy's like, I didn't come here for a math lesson. So why don't you just tell how much this is going to cost me, and don't use numbers. And April is like, you won't have to pay an extra money, and don't ever call me ma'am again. Next question. Harris gets up. I'd like to talk more about that topless park idea that a local hero brought up yesterday. And April's response is like, it's not going to be topless. Nobody wants your creepy stoner eyes staring at them while they're enjoying a park, okay? Stop being gross. And Harris is like, yeah, all right. You shut me down.
Shut me
You
down.
scare me.
Yeah.
I got to say, I kind of dig that. So what's your deal? Which is the second time Harris has asked, what's your deal? Or what's the deal about April? The other one was at her wedding where she married Andy.
She down to clown or what?
And Andy is right there next to her. And he's like, listen, she's married to me with 2 thumbs covered with fruit roll-ups.
As you do.
Because Andy came to this meeting prepared. A bag full of fruit roll-ups and baseball cards.
I just wish he had some baseball cards stuck to his thumbs.
Yeah. So April is like figuring out how to be herself in this new role, taking on more responsibility. And Andy helped her see her full potential of shutting people down and making it happen. So yeah, so that's a fun, quick storyline, and we'll come back to that at the end. But we need to take a break here, Andy. Or you're not Andy, you're Jeremy. I was reading the name Andy on my screen. We have some email from some listeners. So
sweet. It's time for our own public forum.
Yeah, it's time for a public forum. And so here we are. The first one is from listener Christy. I'm doing real good. Doing real good with my reading
And
today. Listener Christy, who says, Hail Zorp. And she points out that St. Elmo's Fire was a movie, not a TV show. We
Oh,
called it a TV show. Turns out it's a movie.
it's
And then
way
she gives
off.
us the plot of it. But St. Elmo's Fire, and some educational stuff here, is a sailing term for a phenomenon when a corona of light would be observed around the mast of ships due to weather conditions. And it was believed it would guide the ship to safety if it was observed while they were caught in a storm. So then the movie, spoilers for anybody who has not yet seen this, like us. The movie is about a group of college friends who are setting out after graduating to pursue their various careers and drift apart. They all hang out at a bar called St. Elmo's Fire, or St. Elmo's, as they get jobs, break up, get together with other people. It's yuppie mythology about starting to become your own person and make piles of money. And so Rob Lowe, his character is a musician, a saxophonist. And then she has this note here, which tells you how 80s this movie is, who never really gives up on the partying lifestyle. He eventually leaves the group to pursue his saxophone career and leaves a lot of wreckage behind him. It's a Brat Pack movie. It's more so even than The Breakfast Club. So, yeah. But then she also makes note here that she loved the Bachelorette party episode and the detail of how Chris says he now wants a woman who loves the good things in life, and dimples are a plus. And Shawnee is all those things, including the dimples. And so, but then she gives us a little spoiler warning, just proof that things can be perfect on paper, but still not work out. So thank you, listener Christy. And then we got a new email from a new listener, or first time emailer, who goes by the name of PJ. And
If
PJ
that
says,
is your real name.
well, I know it's not this person's real name because their email has their real name, but they signed off with PJ. So I'm going with PJ.
All right, Pearl Jam.
Yes. Pearl Jam says, so no, she says, hello. I love your podcast. Thank you. That's enough.
Oh, thanks. The end.
Yeah. Best email ever.
We won.
So she said, I listened to it and to and fro from work and while working out, and late to the show and not listening in real time. So she's a little behind. So this is a little out of sync email, but you know what? Our whole lives are out of sync. And today, as we're recording this, the internet itself is out of sync. But this had to be addressed because we left out Starburst jelly beans in the list of best jelly beans.
Oh, wow. Huge oversight.
Yeah. So thank you for catching our error. We regret the error, PJ. And so we have tried them. Jeremy and his wife and me and my wife, we will often come together, play games, and often there's a pillaging of our children's Easter candy that's happening.
That's true.
So these have made the way to the game table. And so PJ is a bit of a jelly bean snob, but these never disappoint. And then also PJ has some feelings about Twizzlers. She says Twizzlers are garbage, though she's never had a red vine to compare.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
it can only go up.
That is news in itself. Never had a red vine to compare. But PJ lives in Florida, and maybe they aren't common out there. And then she says I'm maybe confused with Twizzlers pull and peel with the original garbage Twizzlers. She's really got some opinions on Twizzlers here. The original garbage Twizzlers. The pull and peel iteration are good, and that might be what I'm thinking. I do think I do remember pulling and peeling. They're good. Original Twizzlers are a waxy disappointment, much like High Chew. That's my editorialization. How they have been around since 1929 is beyond my comprehension. PJ continues with the candy conversation because this is important stuff. Peeps aren't great, but I eat them for nostalgia reasons. The chocolate covered ones are pretty good. I've never had a chocolate covered one. Have you?
Yeah, I have. My mother-in-law buys me I think we talked about this too.
Oh, right.
I've had pretty much, I shouldn't say every, but most of the time I get a good selection of Peeps throughout the year. So yeah. Have you've never had them?
No.
What's your favorite Peep memory?
Not eating them. Mainly.
Perfect. Yeah.
So they're just not for me.
There's some people who really like the stale ones. Like if you leave them out for like a week or whatever, and they get kind of crunchy on the outside. There's like a whole Peep culture. There's a subreddit for it. Anyway, go ahead.
There's a subreddit for everything, and that doesn't
Sure.
mean it's a good thing. And then PJ continues. I also have a theory regarding Reese's peanut butter eggs and trees, and that they have more peanut butter and less chocolate.
Yes.
And so that's why they taste more peanut buttery.
Agreed.
Which I'm for. But they also could be fresher, and that she put those in quotes, which I don't know how to take that, because they are seasonal shapes. So
yeah, because we got some mini Reese's eggs that are like half of an egg, and they're small, like a little bit larger than like a Starburst or something. Well, anyway, a York peppermint patty around that size, and it's just like half of an egg, and it's way too much chocolate for the peanut butter, and it tastes totally different. So I think it is. I agree, PJ. It's the ratio.
All right. Well, I think there's more research to be done in this field, and I am looking for interns on this. We'll get this worked out. So, and then concluding, PJ says, I laughed so hard during your candy conversation that I had to stop running, which is great because I hate running, but I love candy. So keep it up. Can't wait for your take on The Office. Sincerely, PJ. P.S. Great movie score you left out. Home Alone, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. Agree across the board. Those are all great scores. So thank you, listener. If you have an email that you would like to send to us, please send an email to parksandconversation@gmail.com. And if you would do us a favor, tell your friends about this show, rate and review, do all of that. It would be really wonderful to be able to get the word out on Parks and Conversation. And so let's get to the last of our storylines.
The main event.
And now, Jeremy, I thought I lost you there.
Oh, no, I'm here.
You got real quiet. And so I was like, I'm going to have to stop again. And
I was getting excited for the main storyline. I was getting geared up.
Listener, if this ever gets to the internet, you are in for a real treat. Because my internet here at my house has been a real garbage fire. So we're going to walk through the Anne and Leslie plotline, and hopefully we'll be able to get all of this in one take. That would make my life much happier when I edit this thing together. So, so Leslie is in her office, and Anne comes, and Leslie's like, I got a good idea for your blog, because remember, Anne's trying to do all these new things, and she should take herself ice skating and do a double date with Ben and Leslie and Anne and Anne. But then Leslie immediately talks about how good she is and she can do jumps. So you just embarrass her. And so Leslie kind of talks her out of ice skating, but it's fine because Anne already has an idea. Jeremy, what is Anne's idea?
She wants to have a baby.
A baby. Now, this is a big deal.
Right.
And it's a major commitment to have a baby.
Yeah, you can't just take them back when you're done.
No. And Leslie recognizes that this is a big deal and is kind of overwhelmed by this. And Anne's like, I'm going to go to the sperm bank today. Will you come along with me? And because Anne is not going to go the traditional route of coupling with somebody. She just wants a donor. She wants to raise a baby on her own. And Leslie is overwhelmed by this. She points out that in a talking head that Anne is giving up on love and deciding to have a baby with herself. She's only been dating herself for 6 weeks. So that's pretty quick to have a commitment with anybody with a baby. So so they go to the bank, the sperm bank, and they start filling out the forms. And the person asks, "Are you two a couple?" And Leslie says, "No, tragically, we are both heterosexual." And then they say, "So what are you looking for in particular?" And Anne says, "Some sperm."
Pretty low bar there.
Yeah, just some sperm. And so the lady hands him a binder with all these people. And she points out that one of them went to Harvard. And Leslie says, so did the Unabomber. This person loves cycling. And then Leslie says, so did Lance Armstrong. He turned out to be a lying drug dealer or a hero. We don't know where to stand. And then Sewage Joe comes in and he's like, fancy meeting you here. Joe says, like, me and all my friends come here. We get money, free porn, best job he's ever had. And so this is kind of lowering the standards. And Joe says like, also, if you're looking to buy some weed, I'm looking as well. And so they leave.
Shall we? Yep.
Oh man, the guy who plays Joe is such a great sleazebag. So then what the next move, Anne's like, well, maybe there's a sperm bank in Eagleton. And Leslie's response to that is, you don't want a demon baby.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
And so Leslie suggests that they, make a list of things. She already might know the ideal person. So put together a list of guys and maybe talk to them, people you already have a relationship with. And Anne's like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to do a blog entry on Men's Health or something, and I can interview them, ask whatever I want. And so she's going to go do that. And Leslie is in another talking head. Like, she's trying to slow this baby train down so that she doesn't have a baby with some random weirdo. But she also says that she believes that a woman should be in charge of what happens to her body. In this case, the body is Anne's, and the woman in charge of it is me. So then she gives the list, and that she has 3 names for her list of candidates. And so she's going to interview these 3 people. And the first one is Dr. Harris.
Because he's a doctor. He's like smart and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
He's amazing.
And she's worked with him.
Yeah. And so like it makes sense on the like we're
Genetic.
both medical professionals too.
Right.
Like, the romance of it is not as necessary because we know how this works. And so we just want to have a medical procedure. It's kind of how it feels. And that's how Dr. Harris is in all things. First, he's just evaluating everything and comparing his life, though, to her life and offices and furniture. So it's all not great the way Dr. Harris presents himself. So I do love, though, that he's like, is this going to take very long? I got a patient coming in. And they're like, oh, no, this won't take long. But Leslie's like, maybe you should go check on your patient. And he's like, he's got a spinal fracture. He's not going anywhere.
Technically the truth.
He's not going anywhere. And so this is not a great shot. And then the next one is Pistol Pete. And so they start talking, and Anne's like, are you still dunking basketballs? He's like, I do a lot more. I also teach marketing over at Pawnee Community College. And then she's like, oh, that's great. Would you say you value education? And Pete right away, I see what's going on here. You want my sperm.
It just starts to get up.
Yeah.
When will they learn?
When will the women of this town stop scheming to get my sperm? And then the last candidate is Howard Tuttleman. And Leslie's like, I know that name. And turns out Howard Tuttleman is the douche from Crazy Ira and the Douche. So, so they start interviewing Howard. So Anne asks where he went to school, and points out Northwestern, and he studied semiotics. And this is when every time this comes up, it's like, oh, I have a similar degree to the douche. Because my degree is semiotics and future studies. So fun. So he wrote a thesis on narrative forms in the digital world, but he talks about how he created this persona of the douche while he was in college. And so he's got like 2 worlds that he's living in. So he's really smart, but also super creepy. And that pans out the rest of this conversation.
But what a great get out of like being a jerk card. Like, that's not me talking. That's just my character. That's my persona.
Yeah. And so he does that a couple times throughout here. That was the douche talking. And so Leslie runs out to him Howard, or Anne says like she's going to choose Howard. And so Leslie runs out to the parking garage and yells out, hey, douche. And then Councilman Hauser shows up.
Right behind the car. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how they deploy Councilman
Yes.
Hauser
Right.
whenever Leslie is doing something terribly inappropriate.
He's like a professional Jack in the Box. He just pops up at the
Yes.
worst possible time.
Yeah, kind of like the reverse of the lawyer in Arrested Development. Like he's such a professional. Like he hides behind stuff
Right.
so that he doesn't get in the way. Like now the Hauser like shows up at the worst possible time. And so so Leslie tells the douche all about Anne's plan. And he's like, wow, this is a big step, man. Wow. It's something I'm going to have to think about. And Leslie's like, well, you're not the right person for the job. And Howard is like, well, that's not for you to decide. And then, if we had a little girl, I'd name her Elizabeth after my grandmother. If we had a boy, something funny like Dick or OJ. So not great.
Guess I have a lot to consider.
Kathy and I were talking about getting another dog eventually. We are unable to have the babies. But when our dogs die, we're talking about getting another dog, and she really wants to give.
Wow, are you having this conversation in front of your dogs?
Yeah, they're dumb.
Okay.
They can't hear, or they don't understand what we're saying. They can hear sometimes. But she really wants to give a dog like a person name, like Mike.
Gary the dog.
Gary is one that she said. She wants to just go out on the deck and yell, Gary! So I'm on board with that. So then Anne is in her office the next day, and she's like, hey, I was listening on the radio on my way into work, and look what I heard. And so the douche and Crazy Ira are talking, and douche basically says all about this whole plan to have a baby, where this girl that he used to date wants to have a baby with him, and so Anne is now very mad at Leslie because she has betrayed her, and so they're not great. And then Councilman Milton comes in and was like, do you have a meeting? He's like, oh no, I just wanted to toss my name into the ring in respect to this Indian woman's stuff. So Milton is another one of the terrible people. So Leslie's going to make it right. So she goes to the morning show to talk. I think it's the morning. I'm assuming it's morning. The morning show for Crazy Ira and the douche, trying to work it out and say, like, you got to stop this whole process or this whole thing and leave Anne alone. And it's pretty amazing how they have a guy who is able to make these drops so quickly. And so she said, like, play a drop about Leslie, and Leslie's like, that wasn't me. That was a farcical sound. And Ira's like, did she say fartsicle? And the douche is like, frozen farts you can eat, put it in your face mouth. And then the drop that comes, it's cold and it smells. She's like, how did you make that so fast? I
love their drop guy because he's just like totally stone faced, like no emotion. He's just playing the most ridiculous sounds and just like, this is even funny to me.
Yeah, he's just doing the job. He's a workman right there. And so they say, please just leave my friend's, stop talking about my friend's womb. And so they say, well, the only way you're going to do that is if you can survive one round with breasty Bertha in the Jello pit. And then they play Bill Cosby sounds about Rudy, get in the Jello. And that was bad. I'm sorry.
Aged well.
Yeah. And Leslie's like, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, don't you want your people to think that you're fun? Show your fun sides. So they're like, all right, listen, we'll stop if you just get in the Jello pit for 1 second and say Rudy. And so she does, and she gets in there, and she says Rudy, and they're like, no, say it like Bill Cosby. And so she tries to say Rudy, I don't know. And
it's like an Italian, like,
I'm terrible at this.
It's a Rudy.
And so they're like, fine, I'm done. And then she tries to get out and she slips and falls. And then the drop again is like, Oh, Rudy's falling into the Jello pit. Theo, now there's Jello all over my favorite sweater. They have drops for all of this. So, yeah. So Anne is grateful. She's like, I heard you on the radio. Thanks for doing that. And so Anne's like, but you know what? You're probably right. This is a big decision. I should take my time. And so they're, reconciling here. And Leslie's like, we should have a more methodical approach. And it involves color-coded binders. And the cover has a picture of Anne's reproductive system saying, let's do this. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun journey now for Anne and Leslie to try to figure out who is going to help Anne have a baby. So, any thoughts on that plot line before we get to the credit scene?
No, I mean, it's just a huge jump for Anne. I don't want to say out of left field, but it's a big step. She hasn't really mentioned anything like it before. And other than kind of the heads up we got from the last episode with her playing with, Ron's girlfriend's kids, she was like, oh, I'm terrible with kids. And now like after one day, she's great. Like, I'm just going to have one. So anyway, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, big life change for Anne coming. So cut to credit scene. Ben and Leslie are eating breakfast in Leslie's office. And Ben's like, are you cool with, JJ's Diner catering what you've referred to as the wedding of the millennium? And Leslie's like, yeah, absolutely. This is great. But there's also smoke happening in the courtyard. And they come out and Leslie's like, what are you doing? Celebrating? We got, April says, we got 80 signatures and like 30 complaints of excessive rudeness, but who cares? And Andy's like, you should have seen her. She was awesome. So smart, so hot, so mean. And he's like, I would have wanted to have sex with her right there in the dirty church basement. And this is like, no, but what are you doing? We're burning this awful pantsuit. And I was like, that's mine. I wanted that back. And April, it's so great. You should have thought of that before we burned it.
Exactly. That's on you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's season 5, episode 12. And this recording was quite a journey that we went on. And so listener, please come back. Maybe the internet will work better sometime. And it'll be a little smoother edits and all that stuff. And maybe I'm just such a good editor that you would be like, wow, I never would have known. Either way, tell your friends about this show. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Totally fun. All right. Well, then we should go before we break the internet again.
Yes.
But, next week is emergency response. Department is to put together a last-minute fundraising gala for the new park without Leslie, who's been called away on an emergency disaster drill. Meanwhile, Andy takes his police officer exam next week on Parks and Conversation.
Oh man, that's still going to be great. I love that one. You're pulled over by an officer. It's your dad. What do you say to him? Oh, I'm excited now. All right. Okay, y'all. All right. We'll see you next week. Jeremy, I'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later. Have fun with your Hot Pocket.